Knowing what I know now, and having had my licence for just over a year, does make me question, do I regret my 125 journey? And it's not just the fact that I've had my licence for a year that makes me ponder the question as to whether I regret the 125 journey. Seeing other people, seeing my son on his bike, on his 125, seeing other people on their 125s, some of them at the start of their biking journey, it does make me think back. You know, it makes me think back to my own journey. Makes me think back to that very first CBT that I did with UPass, where Mackenzie started off by teaching me how to make a bike move. Right, what is this car doing? Yes, after we got through the basic theory, she literally started by teaching me how to make a bike move, which sounds so daft now, but of course back then I had no biking experience at all, except for one slightly comical experience where I donutted a mate's moped around his garden and got him into trouble. Not quite the biking experience that that people think about when they hear the words biking experience. So I had no biking experience. Mackenzie's teaching me U-turns, emergency stop, etc, etc, everything you need before you go out on your road ride. And I think about, you know, riding around the pad back then and how great it felt. And there's a certain road that I refer to as my favourite road. And it became my favourite road because on my first CBT we rode along that road. How many times can Rocky Road say the words road in one sentence? So yes, we rode that road all the way to Teignmouth and then all the way back. The whole thing, the whole day was a great experience. I have lots of fond memories of my first CBT. Thing is, my CBT ran out during 2020 when the world had COVID and everything was getting cancelled. You couldn't get CBTs, you couldn't get tests, and so my CBT, it lapsed and I didn't ride for a year. And this is definitely one of the things that I regret. Not biking for 12 months. I can't imagine it now, but of course back then I was a very different biker. I didn't ride through the winter. I used to take the bike away. I didn't commute. I didn't go to bike night. I didn't ride in groups. I didn't have biker friends. You know, I'd take the bike out maybe one evening a week, sometimes one evening every 2 to 3 weeks. So I was pretty much barely biking anyway. So not riding for 12 months would have looked very different back then than it would now. But I do wish that I hadn't spent 12 months of not biking. But eventually we got our act together and got booked back in for another CBT. In fact, back then I wanted to do my DAS, but they had a stupid lead time on getting booked in for your full test, and I'd not been biking for 12 months, so I just wanted to get back on the road. So I got booked back in with UPass, did another CBT, this time with a guy called Mark. Another thoroughly enjoyable experience, you know, back up on the pad. I had all the fond memories of the first CBT to think about, and yeah, it was another thoroughly enjoyable experience. And of course that meant that we were able to get back out onto this beast of a 125, which is something else that I've never regretted. I've never regretted buying this bike, although I do think at some point I'm going to have to change this headlight because the chrome has started to tarnish on the inside just there, and every time there's any moisture in the air whatsoever, it starts to mist up at the front there. There's definitely, it's not sealed, something up with it, so might have to change that headlight at some point. And I may even change the nose cone, or even get the nose cone repaired. Try and pick up on an old repair here that never got done. But no, I've never regretted buying this bike. There's been 1 or 2 times that I thought to myself, should I have got a different one? And that's normally when I'm doing bloody repairs. Terrible repairs. Things like the fork seals, you know, having to do these fork seals several times because they wouldn't bloody seal. And then the steering stop that we failed the MOT on that's up there somewhere, where the entire bike had to get stripped down just to do one bloody job. And I think to myself, should have bought another one, you know. But apart from that, I've never regretted getting the first gen YZF R125. I tell you something that I do wish that I'd done with this bike years ago. I wish I'd fitted a clock to the dashboard, and I wish I'd fitted a gear indicator. And it sounds daft now because I've had the bike for so long, but I've got 3 bikes in the garage now, and I have to remind people that actually I only own 2 bikes. The middle one isn't mine, but that bike has a clock and it has a gear indicator, and so does Laren. But this bike, I mean, Rafiki doesn't care what time it is, what gear we're in. As long as we're biking, that's all that matters. And that's probably true, but I can't help but feel now that when I get back onto this bike, I feel like there are things missing from the dashboard. So, to answer my own question then, do I regret my 125 journey? Mostly, no. I thoroughly enjoyed my first and second CBTs, and I've thoroughly enjoyed learning the art, the craft of biking on this bike. Did I need to stay on a 125 for as long as I did? Probably not. I do regret not biking for that 1 year. Did I need to stay on a bike as long as I did? Probably not, but I wasn't biking a great deal at the time, so ultimately it made sense to stay on a 125. And I had people giving me advice, and you'll have people giving you advice with regards to whether you should bother going down the 125 route or not. I had people telling me that you absolutely have to. I had people telling me that it was a waste of time, just go and do your direct access and get yourself a big bike. And for the most part, this advice appears to have been coming from a positive place and from a place of experience. The people who told me not to bother with CBT and 125 were the people who went the direct access route, and it worked for them. And so of course they believed that it would work for everyone. But from my experience, works for some, not for others. I've come across some people who absolutely 100% need to hone their skills on a 125. I don't regret my 125 journey, and I've thoroughly enjoyed honing my skills on a 125. So much so, of course, that when I did pass my test and get my big bike, I chose to keep my 125 because I still absolutely love this bike. And so when people are giving you advice as to whether you should go 125 route or go and do your test and get a big bike, you have to take their advice in context, in the context of what they did and what worked for them. But I can tell you that there are 100% some people who absolutely must go the 125 route because they will not handle a big bike. And that's not said in a derogatory manner, that is genuinely said, because otherwise they'd be getting themselves into difficulty, putting themselves at risk, putting others at risk. And as bikers, of course, we want everyone to stay safe out there. One thing that I said in a previous video, and I stand by it, is that there is only one reason why anybody should go the 125 route, and that is simply because you decided, with all the information available to you, having weighed up how you feel about big bikes and little bikes, taking all the information into account and weighing it, the only reason why you should ever be going the 125 route is because you decided that it was the right route for you.